Mr. Klein's Story Time.
Hello, my name is Mr. Klein. I've been an elementary school teacher for almost 30 years, and I love reading stories to young people just like you. In fact, I've got a great story that I'd like to share with you right now. So let's get started.
Our Friend Hedgehog, A Place to Call Home, by Lauren Castillo. A Place to Call Home. Hedge Hollow, Beaver's Dam, Owl's Lookout, Hedgehog's Island, Hen and Chicks, Marsh, Annika May's House, Friend Fort, Hedge Hideaway, Mole's Hole. Families come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they are joined by birth, and other times they are chosen. Hedgehog, Muddy, Mole, Owl, Beaver, Hen and Chicks, and me, Annika May. We may look different on the outside, but together we are like family. Together we are home. Chapter 1. Signs of Winter. Between the great forests, in the center of the river, on a teeny tiny island, lived two dear friends, Hedgehog and Muddy. Most nights they slept on the island, but they spent their days in the company of good friends. On this day, Hedgehog woke early to a chilly breeze ruffling her spines. The trees all over Hedge Hollow had changed color weeks ago, and some had lost their leaves. Wintertime was coming very soon. Wintertime meant snow. And snow brought with it all sorts of fun. Snowball fights, snow tubing, and most exciting of all, snow hogs. Hedgehog had been drafting her practice snow hog for months. She'd used 2 sticks for arms, 2 dark pebbles for eyes, another for the nose, and at least 28 small twigs for its spines. All she needed now was snow. Hedgehog tapped on Muddy's shoulder. "Wake up, Muddy! Owl has a new book for us today." Owl often hosted story times, and the friends took turns cramming into his tiny loft. Today, it was Hedgehog, Muddy, and Mole's turn. Hedgehog grabbed Muddy by the paw and hopped into the little red boat Beaver had made them. Quickly and carefully, they rowed toward the mainland. Chapter 2. The Doppel Who? It was a long walk to Owl's, but by now Hedgehog knew the path well. Hedgehog zigzagged and sing-sang through the forest with Muddy in tow. "Today is New Book Day, today is New Book Day. Owl is going to read us a new book today," she sang out. A songbird whistled back, and then she felt a plop on her head. "Ack! Bird poo!" Hedgehog shrugged. "Well, at least it's good luck," she giggled. They continued on the path until they reached Mushroom Glen. Hedgehog couldn't believe how many mushrooms had sprouted since their last visit. She bent to take a closer look, and a flicker of movement caught her eye. Something spiny. Something much too familiar. Was it? Hedgehog grabbed Muddy and ran as fast as she could to Owl's. She didn't look back, even once. "Owl! Owl!" Hedgehog yelled. "I saw me!" "You what?" Owl yelled back down. "You saw you?" "No, I saw something that looked just like me. It had my same spines and my same snout, and it was just about my size." "Most likely it was your reflection," Owl said. "But it couldn't have been my reflection, Owl. I wasn't near any water." Maybe just a pine cone?" Owl suggested. But it was walking, urged Hedgehog. Owl glided down from his loft, and Mole followed. Ciao, amici, greeted Mole. Tell us exactly what happened. Hedgehog was still shaking from the incident. I was in Mushroom Glen. I looked up, and there was a face just like mine. That's all I can tell you. I didn't stick around for long. Goodness gracious, Mole said. Did you talk to it? No, said Hedgehog. I was too startled to say anything. I have a theory, said Owl. It heard about my fantastic read aloud and wanted to trick us by taking your place today. Said Mole. But if it wanted to come to story time, why was it all the way down at Mushroom Glen? True, said Owl. He began flipping through a large book. What are you doing? Hedgehog asked. Finding your answer, Owl declared. He turned the book around so they could all see. It seems you've met your doppelganger. My who? Doppelganger, Mole repeated. That's a German word. Owl nodded, reading aloud from his dictionary. Doppelganger, a ghostly double or counterpart of a living person. What? Hedgehog felt faint. Don't worry so much, Owl said. All it means is there's a hedgehog look-alike out there. Or maybe it's just a relative, Mole cut in, seeing Hedgehog's worried face. A long-lost sister or cousin. Alone with Muddy on the tiny island, Hedgehog had often wondered what it would be like to have a big family. I suppose it might be nice to meet a relative, Hedgehog mused. Then let's go, hooted Owl. Doppelganger or no, we're going to find this creature. Chapter 3. The Big Build. On the other side of the river, Annika May was helping Beaver. Pass me those 2 long branches, Beaver called from a large hole in the riverbank. Annika May was trying to give Beaver space to do what he did best, but it had been her idea to build the Friend Fort, and Beaver wouldn't let her do any of the building. Beaver, can't I come in and help? Annika May asked. Nope, Beaver replied. Beavers only on the construction site. It's too dangerous for anyone else. Fine, Annika May sighed. But at least let me pick out the materials. I have a good eye for design. You can design the inside once I'm done with all the heavy lifting, Beaver said. Annika May was about to object when something caught her attention. It looked like the start of one of Hen's treasure heaps. Hen, are you nearby? Annika May called. A minute later, Hen came waddling out of the marsh grass with a wingload of junk. Annika May, look at all the decorations I found for the fort, Hen clucked. These are, interesting decorations, said Annika May, holding up an enormous pair of indigo underwear. Hen grabbed the undies back. This is a flag for the fort. She waved the undies high and gave a crisp salute. Annika May laughed so hard she snorted, and soon she was helping Hen search for the perfect flagpole. Down the river, just out of sight, there was a big splat, then another, followed by a peep, 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 echoing across the riverbank. Oh, chicks, squawked Hen. March your fluffy feathered fannies over here right this instant. The chicks came bouncing through the marsh, covered beak to claw in mud. What a mess, cried Hen. Go clean that mud off. Don't make me tell you twice. The chicks drove right off the trash heap and into the river. The water was cold, and the chicks were shivering when they got out. Chicks, it's sweater weather. Too cold not to wear clothes this time of year, Annika May said. I don't have a sweater, Beaver's voice echoed from inside the fort. I was talking to the chicks, Annika May hollered back. Oh, well, I thought you should know I don't have one, and I want one, the kind with the buttons and a collar. Beaver popped his head out the fort entrance. And if you're wondering what colors, I'm thinking maybe a nice red and purple. Annika Mae's brow furrowed as she looked down at her own sweater. Are you asking for my sweater, Beaver? Well, if you don't want it anymore, sure, I'll take it. Beaver, Abuela made me this. I can't give it away. Beaver's face fell. But maybe I can ask her to make another one for you. No, that's okay, mumbled Beaver. I don't like to match. Beaver disappeared once again inside the fort. As the shivering chicks huddled under their mother's wings, Annika Mae headed up the hill in a hurry. She had some sweater hunting to do. Chapter 4. Urgent Matters. A hammer and 2 nails, Beaver called from inside the fort. Hello, Annika Mae! I need the hammer and nails now. Annika Mae? Okay, you can come inside if you really want to. Beaver huffed out of the fort right as Hedgehog was walking past. Hedgehog, you're just in time. Annika Mae disappeared, and I need help. Can you lend a paw? Hedgehog looked Beaver straight in the eye. Hey, those are my goggles, Beaver exclaimed. Without a word, Hedgehog turned away and shuffled upstream. Where are you going? Beaver yelled, but Hedgehog was already gone. Beaver sat on the bank, sulking until the others returned. The chicks bobbled along in little sweaters that Annika Mae had borrowed from one of her dolls. They cheeped and leaped all over Beaver until his frown turned upside down. Mole, Owl, and Hedgehog arrived just in time to join the chicks in a beaver tackle. Over time, the friends had learned that Beaver's grumpy moods were no match for a big group hug. That's enough! Shrieked Beaver, hiding his happiness under a paw. Everyone's here. Time to work on the fort. I'm afraid we have an urgent matter to discuss, Owl cut in. What could be more urgent than the fort? Beaver fussed. There's another hedgehog in the hollow, and we need to find it. Another hedgehog? Annika Mae perked up. How exciting! I agree, said Mole, but I'm not sure our hedgehog feels the same. Hedgehog retold the story of the doppelganger, and how on one paw she was curious, but on the other paw she was frightened to meet another hedgehog. I'm exhausted just thinking about it, sighed Hedgehog, curling up on the bank. It's okay, Tomodachi. Mole put her paw over Hedgehog's paw. We will be there with you to meet this hedgehog. Will you help too, Beaver? Hedgehog asked hopefully. We can cover more ground in your raft. Of course he will, Annika Mae piped in. Beaver turned to look at the partially finished fort, but I was just about to install the door. Without the door, who will keep out intruders? Beaver! Squawked Owl. Beaver looked back at Hedgehog. She hadn't helped him earlier. Why should he help her? This could be Hedgehog's family we're talking about, Owl pressed. The fort will be in good hands while you're gone, Annika Mae grinned. Okay, Beaver sighed. I will take you to look for this doppel-whatever. But let's be quick so we can come back and finish the fort. Owl, Mole, Hedgehog, and Muddy boarded the raft. Bon voyage! Annika Mae waved as they launched into the choppy river waters. Chapter 5. The Investigators. What are we looking for again? Beaver asked as he began paddling. Do you ever listen? Owl hooted. We are looking for Hedgehog's doppelganger, her look-alike. Is that why you were too busy to help with the fort earlier? Beaver groused. And why did you need my safety goggles? What are you talking about, Beaver? Hedgehog looked puzzled. I saw you, Hedgehog. You were headed around that bend. Beaver pointed past his dam. Beaver, compadre, Hedgehog has been with us all morning. It couldn't have been her, said Mole. For a moment, everyone just looked at each other in confusion. The doppelganger, cried Owl. It must have been the doppelganger. Are you sure it went that direction? Asked Mole. Captain Beaver is always sure, Beaver boasted. Owl rolled his eyes. Let's go, he urged. Beaver worked hard to paddle upstream against the current. Hedgehog and Mole were huddled together, each gripping one of Muddy's arms. As they approached the dam, Beaver called to the friends, Time to get out and push. Push what? Owl began to ask. No time for questions. Out, out, Beaver ordered as he paddled his raft right up to the bank. Ready, set, push! The crew pushed as Beaver pulled. Finally, the raft was around the other side of the beaver dam and back in the water. Quivering quails, I'm beat! Mole collapsed to the ground. The friends flopped down next to her. It's not that heavy, chuckled Beaver. Now come on, we better keep moving if you want to find this other hedgehog before dark. They dragged themselves back onto the raft, and Beaver continued paddling as they entered unfamiliar forest. I've never been up here, Hedgehog called over the noisy current. A movement in the distance caught Owl's eye. Beaver, steer toward that hedgerow, ordered Owl. Hey, who's the captain here? Beaver snapped, but turned the raft toward the long row of bushes. Owl took flight, circling the area once, twice, then thrice. As I suspected, Owl said when he returned. There are hedgehogs behind the hedgerow. Lots of 'em. Hedgehog's stomach flipped. She held Muddy even tighter now. Mole noticed and put an arm around her shoulder. Swiftly and surely, they rode straight toward the hedgerow. Chapter 6. Hedge Hideaway. Beaver, Owl, Mole, and Hedgehog, who was clinging to Muddy, tiptoed toward the hedgerow. They peered through the leaves to see what was on the other side. Afternoon, mates, a raspy voice startled them. Hedgehog whirled around and found herself snout to snout with her own mirror image. But as Hedgehog studied the creature, she realized they didn't look exactly alike. This hedgehog had white whiskers on its face. Its nose was a bit pointier, and it looked wobbly on its feet. Hi, Hedgehog stammered. I don't think we've met, the other hedgehog said. The name's Grandhog. Hello, sir. Owl extended a wing. My name is Owl. These are my friends, Beaver, Mole, and Hedgehog. Grandhog looked directly at Hedgehog. You checking in? He asked. Checking in? Hedgehog questioned. To Hedge Hideaway, Grandhog said. The place where all our kind come to hibernate. Hibernate? Hedgehog still didn't understand. Hibernate, repeated Owl, to spend the winter sleeping. Grandhog puffed out his chest. Hedge Hideaway is the best hibernation retreat. I built it with my own 2 paws. Beaver looked impressed. Can we have a tour? He asked. Sure, mate, answered Grandhog. Follow me. When Beaver, Owl, Mole, and Hedgehog stepped through the hedgerow, there was a whole village, rows and rows of tiny houses, and lots of hedgehog look-alikes scurrying about. They were carrying bags and bundles into their houses. Owl was reading the names off the doors. Heather Hog, Howard Hog, Harper Hog, Hector Hog, Hugo Hog, Hilda Hog. Hedgehog could hardly believe her eyes. Grandhog read the large sign at the entrance. Home is where the hedge heart is. What you think now? Groundhog asked Hedgehog. Great place to hibernate, eh? Sure, Hedgehog squeaked. She had never hibernated before. A nap that lasted the whole winter sounded way too long. As Beaver asked Groundhog questions about the tiny houses, Hedgehog whispered over to Mole, Mole, do I have to hibernate? Mole patted Hedgehog on the back. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, dear. Normally, Mole's steady words helped calm Hedgehog, but this was different. If all hedgehogs were supposed to hibernate, and if Hedge Hideaway was the best place to hibernate, that meant Hedgehog should stay, didn't it? Look, Hedgehog, said Beaver, there's only one empty hedge house left. Does it look like home? Mole asked. Well, Hedgehog hesitated. It's up to you, Groundhog smiled, but it's first come, first served here at Hedge Hideaway. Tonight we have our annual hibernation feast, a large community meal before the big sleep. You can get to know your neighbors there. Not that you'll see them much during hibernation, Groundhog chuckled. Hedgehog knew that staying the winter at Hedge Hideaway meant not seeing her friends, not playing with them in the snow, not going to Owl's read-alouds. But at Hedge Hideaway, she'd be among her own kind. She repeated Groundhog's words in her head. Home is where the hedge heart is. Well, I am a hedgehog, so I guess this is supposed to be home. Hedgehog's heart wasn't quite feeling it yet, but maybe this place would begin to feel like home soon. Okay, I will stay, said Hedgehog to Groundhog. Brilliant! Groundhog gave her a slap on the back as her friend stood in silence. We're going to miss you, Hedgehog, Mole said after a somber pause. Exceedingly, Owl said with a nod. Yup, muttered Beaver. But I'll see you once hibernation is over, Hedgehog said, forcing a smile. Yes, we will come to pick you up, said Mole in a more cheerful tone. Hedgehog walked Owl, Beaver, and Mole back to the raft. She hugged them quickly, holding back her tears as they piled on. Hedgehog squeezed Muddy tight to her chest as she watched her friends drift downstream, far away from Hedge Hideaway, far away from her. Chapter 7. A Creative Surprise. While the others were gone, Annika May, Hen, and Chicks were occupied with very important friend fort business. The chicks marched around the fort, keeping guard. Cheep, 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 cheep. Inside the fort, Hen and Annika May were admiring the shelves Beaver had carved with his teeth. Beaver is an excellent woodworker, Hen clucked. Yes, and he knows it, Annika May laughed. Beaver hadn't hung all the shelves yet, so Annika May decided to surprise him. How hard could it be to hang up a shelf? Hen, would you hold this bracket while I hammer? That sounds easy, said Hen, taking her place. As Annika May swung the hammer, Hen shrieked, My wing! And dropped the bracket. I wasn't going to hit your wing, Annika May said. If you're going to help, you'll need to hold still. Okay, agreed Hen. Let's try again. This time, Hen did not let go, but the sound that came out of her beak frightened Annika May so terribly that she struck too hard, splitting the bracket right in half. Oh no, Annika May cried, I broke it. Hen picked up the other bracket. But look, there's another. I know, Hen, but we need 2 brackets to hang the shelf. One won't work. Annika May pouted. Hen felt bad. Oh, well, finding things is my specialty, she said. I can find you another brackamajiggy. Hen waddled outside and began sorting through her treasure pile, Annika May following behind. Nah. Won't do. Too clunky. Too flimsy. Annika May began to lose hope. Hen disappeared under the pile, and when she came back, she was wearing a wooden fruit crate. "This!" she cheered. "This is exactly what we need." "I don't think so, Hen," Annika May said doubtfully. "That is not a bracket." "I have a vision," said Hen with a twinkle in her eye. "Do you trust me?" Annika May was a little skeptical, but she had never seen Hen so excited. "Okay, Hen," she said. "Let's give it a try." Chapter 8. A Place to Call Home. Hedgehog sat Muddy down inside their new home. It didn't feel very homey. If she was going to stay here all winter, she'd better cozy things up. Outside her window, other hedgehogs were lugging leaves and straw into their houses. "I'll be right back, Muddy." Hedgehog smiled at a few kind faces along the way, and they smiled back. It felt strange to see so many hedgehogs in one place when only yesterday she hadn't seen even one other hedgehog. As she walked home with an armload of leaves and nesting grasses, she noticed the sky. It was layered with cotton candy clouds. She felt the air, still and cold. Was it going to snow? She was so excited that she ran all the way back to her tiny house. "Muddy! Snow!" Hedgehog grabbed Muddy and brought him outside to see the sky. "Well, it's not snowing yet," she told him, "but I don't want to miss the first flakes." Then she heard Groundhog's voice echoing over a loudspeaker. "Attention, hibernators! Due to an incoming snowstorm, we have decided to begin the annual hibernation feast a little early. Please join us in the picnic area before sunset. Toodles!" "I was right!" Hedgehog cheered. "The first snow really is on its way." She gave Muddy a squeeze. "Let's go make some new friends." Chapter 9. The Hibernation Feast. Hedgehog was in such a hurry to get to the feast, she stumbled over a stick in the path. "Ooh, this would make a perfect snow hog arm," she thought. When Hedgehog and Muddy arrived at the feast, it was even grander than Hedgehog had imagined. New faces always made her nervous, and there must have been 100 in this room alone. She looked for empty seats, but didn't see even one. Then Hedgehog heard a familiar raspy voice. She turned to see Groundhog beaming her way. "Greetings, Hedgehog! Quite an impressive spread, eh? Here, let me find you a seat." Groundhog walked Hedgehog and Muddy over to the very last empty seat. He looked at Muddy and then back to Hedgehog. "I'm sorry, only one seat left," Groundhog apologized. "Thanks, Groundhog." Hedgehog smiled anxiously and took a seat at the table, placing Muddy and the snow hog stick on her lap. "Enjoy the roast turnip. It's my favorite," Groundhog called as he scuttled away, leaving Hedgehog among strangers. Hedgehog looked around. There was so much food, the wood planks bowed under the weight of it all. There were plump strawberries and long sprigs of cranberries, whole carrots and yellow squash, dandelion greens and roasted asparagus, blueberry tarts, and purple sweet potato pie. Hedgehog had never eaten a rainbow before. "Hi, my name is Heatherhog," said one of Hedgehog's table mates, noticing her surprise. "You must be a first-timer at Hedge Hideaway." "You are right," Hedgehog giggled nervously. "My name is Hedgehog, and this is Muddy." "Nice to meet you." Heatherhog extended her paw. "This hog stuffing his face is Hugo Hog." "Howdy," Hugo Hog mumbled through a mouthful of strawberries. "Howdy," Hedgehog repeated back. There was a pause. Hedgehog didn't know what to say. Then she remembered the stick on her lap. "I was wondering," Hedgehog ventured. Do you like to build snow hogs?" "Snow hogs?" Hugo Hog questioned. "I mean, when it snows, do you like to build hedgehogs out of snow?" "Oh, snow hogs!" Hugo Hog guffawed. "No way, y'all. I never go in the snow. It's too cold for a thin-blooded fellow like me." "My favorite thing about snow is sleeping through it," snorted Heather Hog. The two were laughing, but Hedgehog didn't get the joke. How could they not like snow? For the rest of the meal, Hedgehog munched carrots and cranberries while listening to the others chit-chat about hibernation. Not even one liked snow. Every hedgehog sounded so happy. To sleep through the entire winter. They would miss snowball fights, snow tubing, and most important of all, snow hogs. Hedgehog could not imagine sleeping through all that. These hedgehogs might be made of the same spines and snouts, but their hearts spoke different languages. Back inside her tiny house, Hedgehog built a nest out of leaves and straw and curled up against Muddy. She thought about the snow that would soon arrive. She pictured the happy faces of the other hedgehogs at Hedge Hideaway. She wished for that kind of happiness again, the kind she shared with her friends. Chapter 10. A Change of Plans. It was just after dawn when a cold draft jolted Hedgehog awake. She bounced out of bed and straight to the window. The world outside was as white as a new sheet of paper. It was snow! Actual snow! Softly falling from the sky and blanketing the ground. It was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. Hedgehog leaped out the door. She scooped up pawfuls of snow and launched them in the air as high as she could. Then she packed a huge snowball, scrambled to the top of a snowdrift, and tossed it into the sky. Plunk! Her snowball bounced off the welcome sign, knocking some snow off and revealing the words Groundhog had spoken yesterday. Home is where the hedge heart is. Hedgehog listened to her heart. This time it was louder than before. She slid down the snow hill and raced inside. Leaf by leaf, Hedgehog built a map. It went all the way from Hedge Hideaway to the Friend Fort. When Groundhog and the others came out of hibernation, they would know exactly where to visit her. She turned to Muddy. "Let's go home." The white snow brightened their path as Hedgehog carried Muddy downriver. Hers were the only footprints as far as the eye could see. Once they reached Beaver's Dam, they stopped to take a short break. Snow was still falling all around them. "If this keeps up, we'll have to tunnel our way home," Hedgehog told Muddy. They continued on their way. Hours passed, and the snow made it difficult to see ahead. Finally, Hedgehog heard the faint sound of voices. Then, up in the sky, she spotted owls circling among the falling flakes. "Muddy, we're almost home," she called. With each step, the voices of her dear friends got louder and clearer. "Gotcha!" she heard Beaver chuckle. They were having a snowball fight. Hedgehog ducked into the brush and snuck as quietly as she could sneak. She scooped up a pawful of snow and packed it tight. Then she hurled it at Beaver, hitting him square between the eyes. "Ugh! Beaver down!" Beaver fell backward into the snow. The rest of the friends spun around in surprise. "Umgani, you came back!" Mole cheered. "Peep, peep!" the chicks cheeped. Beaver popped up. "I knew you'd come back," he grinned. "Also, nice throw," he whispered, leaning in. "You can be on my team." Owl swooped down, flapping his wings with excitement. "Hedgehog, You're just in time for the first story time in our new fort." "We're waiting on Annika May to finish her design," Beaver grumbled. "She won't let us inside until she and Hen are ready for their big reveal." Hedgehog was exhausted from her journey. She wanted nothing more than to curl up, but there was something she had to do first. "While we wait for story time, I have something I want to show you," Hedgehog exclaimed. "Ooh, a surprise?" Owl called. "Yes, but I could use some help." Hedgehog sent the friends for supplies. While they were off collecting, Hedgehog carefully built her very first snow hog. She knew exactly how to make it, thanks to all the drafting she had done on her island. Owl brought 2 sticks. Beaver fetched a pile of twigs, and Mole and Chicks each returned with 1 pebble. Hedgehog placed lots of spines, 2 arms, 2 eyes, and 1 nose. She stepped back to admire her creation. "Well, look at that!" Owl hooted. "I see what it is now." "It's you!" Beaver whooped. "It's a snow hog," Hedgehog blushed. "It's absolutely marvelous," praised Mole. The friends gave Hedgehog a big round of applause. A split second later, the friend fort door flew open. "What's all this commotion?" Hen clucked. Then she spotted Hedgehog, and her eyes grew wide with delight. "You are home," Hen announced. "Annika May, Hedgehog is home." Annika May dove through the friend fort door, squeezing Hedgehog and Muddy so hard their insides nearly became their outsides. "I missed you both so much," she cooed. Hedgehog felt her heart swell. There was no place else she'd rather be. Chapter 11. Home. "Well, now that everyone is here, shall we reveal the friend fort?" Annika May smiled. "We've only been waiting all day," Beaver harumphed. "Okay, Mr. Impatient, you can help me with the ribbon cutting." Annika May pulled a long red ribbon out of her pocket. "To celebrate the official opening of our amazing new clubhouse, a place we can all call home." Beaver took one end of the ribbon and stretched it across the fort entrance. "Hedgehog, would you do the honors?" Annika May handed her a pair of scissors. Hedgehog cut the ribbon right in the center, and everyone cheered triumphantly. "Okay, now can we see the fort?" Beaver persisted. "Yes, Beaver, but close your eyes before you go in." One by one the friends filed into the fort. "Okay, on the count of 3, open them. 1, 2, 3. "Ooh!" they all gasped. "Ah!" Owl fluttered to the bookcase. "Look at all these books!" "And you did it without my help," Beaver nodded with approval. There was a hodgepodge of pillows and poofs and even a perch for Owl. Most importantly, there were enough seats for everyone. They sat down and looked around, taking it all in. "There's one last surprise," Annika May announced, reaching for a bag. "Since it's winter now, you each need something warm to wear." She pulled out a ball of scarves. "Blue for Mole, orange for Owl, teal for Hen, a peach one for Hedgehog—" "Whoa, what did you get me?" Beaver interrupted. "Beaver, that's rude," squawked Owl. Annika May grinned. "Do you want to see what I got you, Beaver?" "I thought you'd never ask," Beaver said with a half smile. Annika pulled the purple and red striped sweater she had worn yesterday out of the bag. "For you," she said with a smile. "I have plenty of clothes, and I know Abuela would be happy for you to have it." Beaver's face flushed with happiness as he put on his new sweater. "Attention, everyone," Owl called. "The time has come for the first ever Friend Fort Read Aloud." Annika May, Hedgehog, Muddy, Mole, Beaver, and Hen and Chicks gathered around. Everyone was cozied up in their new clothes, inside the fort they had created together. They might look different on the outside, but in their hearts, they were family. The end.
Thank you for coming to Storytime. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I read new stories every week, so be sure to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to hear another one. Hope to see you again soon.